There is an Irish parable that goes something like this, and I'm going to compress it for the sake of the homily. There was a terrible storm that hit a village in the Republic of Ireland. Now, it wasn't a hurricane as such like we've been experiencing. It wasn't that terrible storm, but it still was devastating. It did sporadic and intermittent destruction along the way. And it just so happened that Paddy lost his house in the storm. Well, things had quieted down, and he wound up at the local pub. Somehow or another, the storm didn't hit the pub, but then this is the Republic of Ireland, and there are priorities here. So he's sitting there, and he's drowning his sorrow in about 2 or 3 or 4 pints of Guinness. He has his head down. He's very upset. When the pub owner yells, "Hey, Paddy, did you hear what happened to Mike?" Mike lost his house and his farm. Slowly, Paddy raised his head, and a smirk came across his face, and he took another big sip of the Guinness, and he said, "I'm starting to feel better already." Why is it that some people's happiness depends on being better off than somebody else? This parable was being taught one Sunday at PRE. It was the 8th grade. And a little girl had a tremendous insight into this parable. She raised her hand and said, "Well, teacher, you know, if the people who had started work at the beginning had been paid first, they would have gone home happy, because they would not have known what anybody else got." Great insight. That's the twist Jesus put into the parable. After all, at the very end we hear, and we hear it throughout the Gospels, don't we? The last will be first, and the first will be last. But why do some people's happiness really depends on being better off than the other guy? You might have some explanations for that. I came up with 2 reasons. Reason 1 is, I think you'll recognize right away, because we have a cliche about it. There but for the grace of God go I. In other words, somebody's in a predicament, not a good situation, but you're not. And you're so happy that this predicament missed you. But I think the real reason is most of us are stuck with this insistence on justice. Do we rightfully get what belongs to us, what we have coming to us, what we're entitled to, what we ought to have? And we insist on that all the time. And the other person better get only what they should rightfully have coming too. What do I mean? When you're a kid, did you go to a birthday party, and maybe your brother or sister, when it came time to get the birthday cake, got a bigger slice, and you were jealous because why did they get the bigger slice? Why didn't I get it? That kind of a thing. So I would suggest there's that little child inside of our adult bodies that pops out from time to time, that feels that jealousy because I didn't get what I think I should get, or I deserve, or that I rightfully have coming to me, and somebody got more. The parable today may bother some in the congregation, because on the surface it seems like that first group did get cheated somehow, right? It's not economic justice, some would say, in this. Yeah, they agreed, they bargained for the usual pay for a day's work, a denarius, but there's other people that worked 1 hour, they got a denarius too. And that bothers some. But what I would point out is that Jesus is not telling a story about economic justice. He's telling a story about how God works. And there may be part of other parables that Jesus told that bother you too, like the prodigal son. Or how about on the cross, when Jesus forgives the so-called good thief, and he goes to heaven that night. He's being crucified. He's a criminal. Deathbed confession. But think back to the prodigal son. A lot of people identify with the elder son. And the elder son is essentially saying to his father, hey, wait a while. Your son, he doesn't even call him his brother, does he? Your son went through all the inheritance he should have got when you were dead, while you were alive. And now he's come back, and now you've taken him back. Not only have you taken him back, but you've thrown a big party for him. You've killed the fatted calf. You've never done any of those things for me, and I've been here all along. I deserve those things. I've been doing these things for you. Yet you did it for this blankety-blank that did all these terrible things. He deserves to be punished. That's what justice would be for him, you know. The fact of the matter is, remember in the parable, the father runs out to get the son that went away? Okay. In that culture, adult males didn't run. They'd have to pick up their long garment and show their bare legs and stuff in public. You don't do that. Particularly the patron, the patron of the family, doesn't do that. But he did that for a very practical reason that a lot of people don't know. You see, the people in that village around there knew what that one son did. He terribly shamed his father. And now he's coming back. If the father had not gotten to the prodigal son before the villagers, he would have gotten justice from them. They would have killed him to bring honor back to that father of the clan. Or, in this parable, they worked all day. They decided that by justice they should get more. They took the heat of the day, all day working. This other group worked 1 hour. They don't deserve that. Or on the cross, what does the thief say? Remember me when you enter into your kingdom. And all of a sudden his entire life of sinning is gone. Does he really deserve that? Is that justice? These things sometimes bother us. But it shouldn't, should it? No one earns their way into heaven. We don't. Grace, salvation, is a gift from God. God gives that to us because He loves outrageously. He loves generously. He's a generous God. And He offers that to us. And guess what? He wants our hearts to be as large as His heart is. Many of you know that for 5 years I was on the faculty at State Tech, right at the time when they changed their name. And I taught total quality management. And the father of total quality management, W. Edward Deming, used to say, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you'll keep getting what you've been getting. If we ask God for what we justly deserve, guess what? He'll give it to us. But guess what, too? He's generous. He will always give us more than we think we deserve, or though what justice says we should have. God is a generous God. We don't have to have happiness because we're better off than somebody else. We should have happiness because we know in our heart that we have a God who loves us and is generous to us. So, lesson for today, let God be generous.